Welcome to the second video for the Warblog introduction. Essentially, just looking to give you a broader oversight into the site and what it's all about. The first video talked about the mechanics. This video I just want to talk about the scope of the site. Now, it's essentially a blog, and initially decided to try and achieve something that gave me a perspective into modern conflicts, in particular post World War II, and also what was going on in the world and what had gone on in the world. Initially started off with the domain Warblog and based it on an SVG map of the world, like Game of Risk. It didn't really work out, and then I stumbled upon hexes. I mean, I've been doing gaming for years, so I knew all about hexes, but trying to communicate and present the sort of information I wanted to, modern warfare, in a more traditional hex environment. And to be quite honest, I'm pretty amazed at how it's turning out. I didn't know it'd be like this, so I'm happy with that. So essentially, at the moment, I have 4 tabs. There's 10 in there, 10 in there. So there's 30. There's actually there are, because there's 4 on here. 1, 2, 3. There's 4. There's 34 scenarios at the moment, and growing. Not all of them are brilliant scenarios. Some of them are, especially this one, the first one I did, probably lacking in quite a few things. To start off with, you can see this artillery unit doesn't have any artillery range fire. And he still doesn't. So if you were to play this, he wouldn't be able to fire ranged. I'd have to go back and sort that out. But essentially, some games are better than others. The Men 2015, I really did just pull all these units out of a hat. I have absolutely no idea of how accurate the belligerent list is. I just pretty much made these units up. These units are based a little more on, say, information from Wikipedia, etc. So some of these scenarios are really made up and have very little game balance in them. I'm not trying to achieve something that has absolute historic significance. They're just ideas. No one really knows what's happening in your men. So that's a bit of background on there. This one is actually something that I'm particularly interested in, the Cuto Angola, just simply because of its pedigree, its age. And I really haven't done much justice to this at all, and there's no roads, no towns. Now, I'm pretty sure that the terrain wasn't all desert. So I will be, essentially this is definitely one I will be coming back to. I mean, to start off with, there's no air power in this. Now, I would have done this before I had air power, and there was a lot of air power in the game. Also, the South African forces, their artillery, don't have any artillery. I mean, there's no artillery in this game either. So, a lot of these games are there, but I could just log into this and I could just create the artillery and the air power quite quickly. They're all very readily editable. So some of the games I put in there with the intention of coming back and reviewing them, improving them. But at the end of the day, they're still playable. I mean, you can play this. I mean, it's strategically possibly quite interesting just because the rivers are uncrossable. I mean, there are no bridges over this river. You cannot get into Cuticavane, whatever it's called. I mean, you can get down there and down here, but I mean, this is a dead end. So this really is, a fairly poor scenario of what is a really interesting period. I mean, if you read this, it's interesting. I mean, some of these units, the 47th, the 21st, the 16th, they're historically accurate, so it's part of the way there. But essentially, I mean, I'm trying to build up a sort of a broad match. I mean, in this one here, you can see we've got signals, mountain troops. If the scenario requires sort of interesting units, then I will do. I mean, this map sort of looks a bit naff. One of the things is I'm not even sure whether the units can move through the mountains. What's the point of having these units on this side? There's no way of getting over the river. I will be developing some rules where they can sniper fire over the river, so they will be able to move close into there and then attrition across there. Neither side will be able to do anything back, but this artillery here, which doesn't have the range fire rules at the moment, will actually be able to fire into there. And plus, there is some air power. So, I mean, essentially, what I'm trying to sort of get to here is sometimes a scenario will be highly developed, and sometimes it will be, fairly poorly developed. But the whole idea is that I will be coming back, from time to time. I mean, for example, in this one here, Second Battle of SWAT, the map you can see it sort of doesn't look too bad, but at the moment I'm not quite happy with the mountain hexes. They just don't look quite right. And so, but the thing is, I can go back and I can change the mountain hex, one little hex, and it will change all of them across the site. Now I have developed that just to basically put something in there to break it up. So, so essentially, it's a game that's sort of under constant development, and hopefully will give you a sort of an idea. I mean, for example, this one is Second Battle of SWAT. Second Battle of SWAT. I mean, you can play it as a game; it will work, whether it's historically accurate or whatever. It's something else, but you can actually, it's a stepping stone for sort of saying, well, hang on, I mean, this wasn't how it was, or these units were not here, they were over there, or there weren't this many, Pakistan units. I mean, this one is something that I've put quite a lot of effort into, as you can see. But whether it's accurate or not is something else. I mean, whether all these units all really sat around there combat ready in the middle of nowhere at that particular time. I mean, I don't think it really matters. There's sort of, it's interesting. If you're thinking about Aleppo, which is the largest city in Syria, it's still under siege at the moment. It gives you sort of food for sort of like contemplating, what's actually happening out there. And I think that's pretty much sort of what I'm trying to achieve. So, some of these, what I'm also trying to get a balance of the modern, but also, historic. I mean, it's my intention to cover every period, post-war mainly. I don't really want to go into the Second World War. I find that there's just so much on the Second World War. It's just boring. So essentially, things like Bear Pigs, which is really it's a classic, and it's quite difficult to actually find maps, detailing these sorts of scenarios with this sort of level of detail. I mean, you can read, articles and find out, that the first para 2506, were there, and you can get the sort of information. Also, the information on the 933, the bomber plane. They're all labelled 933s to make it look like it's the same plane. So it's essentially designed to sort of give you a basis to actually start thinking about things. Now, part and parcel of what I'm trying to do is to present something that you don't even have to play the game to be able to sort of look at it and to understand the scenario. And once you start reading about these situations, like Operation Swath 10, that's probably actually what it's called, you can then start to sort of, these units are all actually representative of what was there. And the more refined the scenarios get, the more sort of representative they become of those scenarios, and basically the better placed you are to actually learn about what was going on. So, basically being able to play the game isn't actually everything. Now, some of these battles, it's actually quite difficult to just read the map, because there are so many things that happen further down the line. I think I've got a really good example of that. This one here, which is Tishinvali, Georgia. It's particularly interesting because this Georgia invades Tishinvali. I'm pretty sure that's right. Georgia attempts to invade South Ossetia and put in a puppet government. So, and they look like they've got lots of units. You can flick through these units, and these are big stacks: 16, 10, 6. Lots of special forces, artillery. There's only 4 units in But once you get past sort of the first few turns, I mean, this is the entirety of the Georgian army, on one screen, top to bottom. Once you get past the first few turns, the Russians start to come in with massive air power, and then the actual Osseta troops start to come in, along with Russian troops. And this list is actually pretty long. It took a long time to sort of put together, and you can actually so essentially, to fully appreciate this game, you actually have to play it. Now, I'm not sort of driving people to play the games. But the whole intention is that you can just look at the map, and to some extent, I mean, if someone is interested in this battle, even from a tabletop perspective, they can get as much interest out of just looking at the list. They say, well, there weren't that many Su-25s involved. I mean, this is the sortie number, so they're flying quite a lot. This is available for 10 turns. You get 10 attacks with just this one unit, and there's tons of these. I mean, to be quite honest, I'd be surprised if there's anything left of the Georgians after that. I'll probably have to whittle this down a bit. I think I've doubled these ones up here, so I could probably get rid of a few of them. But you can start to look down here and sort of actually, the whole idea is you can actually put names to each of the units. I mean, this is 693 motorized regiment. You can start to put things together. So even if you don't play it, you can still sort of say, you can critically analyse the belligerent list. Wikipedia is quite good for that, but sometimes it's lacking, and sometimes the whole of the internet is just lacking on all of that. So, I mean, essentially, it's a £5 subscription at the moment. When I sort of get it sorted out, I will be putting it up, but it's not really a for-profit venture. There's no way to make a huge amount of money out of this, and the gameplay is probably not as interesting as, say, a Call of Duty, Xbox game, or any of the other things that you can sort of get online. But it is actually quite unique in what it is. I mean, for example, where else are you going to get a map of, Gaza? It took 2014 conflict. And now this is actually quite undeveloped because I haven't put in any of the Air Force or any of the naval features yet. It's going to load. Yeah, but even so, I mean, to some extent, you could almost call this intelligence, but it's only intelligence for people that have, strategic, hexagon chip map based mindset. You can sort of, understand and look at all these units and think, well, that's a big long stack. Well, the engineers, are they going to do anything? You can actually read this situation like a book. So essentially, it does hold its own weight, I think. Some games, so if you sign up, you think, well, this game's a load of rubbish. Some games are actually not very well. I mean, this one needs improvement, but there's nothing really wrong with it. But this one is actually, I think I've got the map off center. I think the Vietnamese start with strongholds in the mountains over here, all the way down here. A lot of the fighting is for this part of the world, and I think this is where, I think the US and the South Vietnamese come from, sort of the north and or the south. I don't really even know, but this map, I think, if there's anything that's embarrassing to this one, Operation Masher, not done justice on this site. But the thing is, I can come back to it and think, well, hang on, what did I do wrong? Why isn't this working? So, it's a game that's got, scope, but it's really not just so that you can go in there and play them. A lot of the games really are not designed to be balanced. I think that was a point I was sort of hoping to make. For example, when we have somewhere in here the Burkina Faso revolt. Now, I mean, there's just no way that they could have won. There was a little unit there, they revolted, they had the intention that they would get the backing of the people and the armed forces. It never happened. You can't win this game. There's only one counter. It's not a game that two people pit their wits against each other to win. They're historic representations. So I think that's it. Time's running out. A few seconds left. I hope you think that the game's worth playing, worth signing up for with your money. I hope you enjoy it.